Hi guys, Olga here from Blacktraining. Today I want to share with you something I call the 5 pillars of boxing. And if you have never heard of it before, it's probably because I just made it up. But I did it for a reason. Because when people say boxing, they think punching, right? That's the first thing they think about. But the truth is, there is so much more to boxing than just hitting stuff. Yes, it's the most fun part, but it all starts in the legs. Believe it or not, boxing is all in the legs. So there are 5 things you need to know before you even put on your gloves. And if you master these 5 things before you start punching, it's going to be a game changer for you, I promise. So let's see what those 5 things are. Number 1, your stance. What is a stance? That's the position of your feet, your basic setup. This is something you need to get right at the beginning, because without it, everything else falls apart. So let's see how to set it up. There are 2 different stances in boxing, orthodox or southpaw. If you're right-handed like I am, you're going to be using an orthodox stance, but if you're left-handed, you're probably going to be in a southpaw stance. So you're going to do the opposite of what I show you. When I say right leg, you're going to use your left leg. When I say right hand, you're going to use your left hand, so everything the opposite. Now you can change your stance during a fight or whenever you want, but it's not as common in boxing as it is, for example, in kickboxing or Muay Thai. So let's just stick to one. If you're right-handed, orthodox. If you're left-handed, southpaw. Let's see how to set up. You will start with your feet shoulder width apart, with a nice gap in between your legs. Then you're going to take a step back with your dominant leg. So for me it's going to be my right leg. For all of you out there who are right-handed, it's going to be a step back with your right leg. Now you want to make sure that you're not turning your whole body away. So that shoulder width gap in between your legs is very important. So when you take the step back, that gap should still be there. So if you're facing a mirror, make sure you can see through your legs as you take that step. This is important because unless your hips are facing forward, you won't be able to throw that right hand. So if you turn your body away and you're here, you won't be able to reach with your right hand as far as you can reach with your front hand. So I took that step back. My front foot is facing forward at 12 o'clock and my rear foot is facing 2 o'clock. For all of you southpaw people, your rear foot is going to face 10 o'clock. I'm going to bend my knees and sit down low. This way I'll have stability. And I'm going to lift up my right heel. That's going to be slightly off the floor, while the front foot is going to be flat. So this is the basic setup. Once I start punching, for example, if I throw a left hook, my left heel will have to come off the floor so I can pivot. But if the left heel comes off, the right heel goes flat. So one heel is always up, the other one is always flat. If both heels were flat on the floor, I would be too much stuck, right? I won't be able to move, I'm going to be too slow. But same thing, if both heels are up, I'm not going to have any stability here, I'm just going to wobble and fall. So in my default, right heel is in the air, left foot is flat, I'm sitting down low with my knees bent and my weight is slightly in the middle. And then, because I don't want my body facing my opponent and being it an easy target, I'm going to turn my body and face my shoulder forward. This way, I'm going to be harder to hit. And then, video game mode. So instead of just standing in one place and waiting here, I want to be slightly shifting my weight back and forth and be ready to move in any direction quickly. So stay in the middle, but be ready to move. And that's your stance. Now that you know how to set up your stance, let's look at the guard. The guard is the position of your arms. And the point of the guard is to protect you. Number 1 thing you want to do, tuck your chin down. And you're going to keep it down at all times. Right hand protects the chin, so it's going to be on your chin. When I say on your chin, I mean on your chin. So, look at this. This is not on the chin. Yeah? No. This is not on the chin either. Still exposed. This is on the chin. Touch it to the chin and keep it tight. The right elbow protects the ribs, so keep that one tight as well. Now the left hand is usually slightly further away. So I don't want to be here all the time, too tight. The left hand is usually in front, about eye level, and I use the left shoulder to protect the other side. So I keep that shoulder nice and high, and this is my default guard. Now this is just a basic setup. The guard changes. A rule of thumb is, the closer you get to your opponent, the tighter your guard should be, because you're getting close to a danger zone. Okay, so you want to keep your guard closer if you're on the inside, but if you're on a distance, then you can relax a bit and you can play around with the guard. But the most important thing is to stay protected. So, right on the chin, elbow on the ribs, left in front, shoulder on the other side of the chin, and that's your basic setup. Number 3, footwork. If you don't have footwork in boxing, you don't have nothing. Boxing is not a sport where you stand around and do everything in one place. Boxing is a sport where you need to move around constantly. So without good footwork, you won't be able to escape your opponent's punches. Without good footwork, you won't be able to get the power you want in your shot. Without good footwork, you're constantly going to be off balance, so if you get hit, you're going to end up on the floor. It all starts with the legs. Get your footwork right and everything else will come. So let's cover the basics. There are 2 things you want to remember when it comes to footwork. Number 1, open and close. Number 2, toe to heel. Remember these 2 things, really important. So, open and close, what does it mean? It means that whenever you move, you want to widen your stance first and then close it back up to where you were. So you don't want to close your stance first and then open, because if you get hit at this point, this is a very unstable position. Again, you're going to end up on the floor. So when we move, we widen the stance first, we open, and then we close. Back to where we were, not closer. So moving forward, this will mean that I start with my front leg, I open, and then I slide my rear foot in and come back to my basic stance. Moving backwards, I start with my rear foot, I open, and then I close with the front foot. And the same applies when I move to the side. So if I move to the left, I go left foot first, and right foot follows. And if I move to the right, I move right foot first, and the left foot follows. So I open and I close, I open and I close, and that's rule number 1 of footwork. Rule number 2, toe to heel. This means that you never step heel first when you walk. This is how you walk down the street, but this is not how we move in boxing. Stay on the balls of your feet. This will allow you to move quickly in any direction. Whether I'm moving forward, stepping on the balls of my feet, whether I'm moving backwards and stepping on the balls of my feet, left or right, it's always toe to heel and never heel first. If you keep these 2 things in mind, you will never be off balance. You will be able to move in any direction at any time. You will be able to punch on the move, to slip on the move, do any kinds of fancy stuff on the move. So keep this in mind. All punches come from the hips. Well, in order to generate power in your punch, you want to face your hips in the direction you're throwing your punch. Okay, this is basic physics. So So if I'm throwing a punch that way, I need to face that way. And the power is coming from the hips, so my hips need to face that way. But this is the most important thing to understand. Why do we turn our hips? Because we want the power to go in the direction of our punch. So thinking hips when you're punching. So when I say cross, don't think right hand, think right hips. When I say left uppercut, don't think left fist, think hips. This is going to make all the difference in the world. So as I said before, all punches come from the hips. Now in order to use our hips properly, we need to understand the role of our feet. So what do we do with our feet and why? In order to generate power in your punch, you want to face your hips in the direction you're throwing your punch. But I can only achieve this if I use my feet. If my feet are stuck to the floor, I won't be able to use my hips properly. So I will need to pivot for certain punches and move my feet in certain directions. So let's look at it punch by punch. Let's start with a jab. So the jab is a straight punch that goes forward. My front foot is already facing forward, so there's no need for any pivot here. Pivoting would turn my hips away to the side, and I don't want it. I want all my power to go forward. So all I need to do is extend my arm. If I want a bit more power, I can take a small step forward as I throw my jab and get that momentum. Or I can just throw it from here without anything happening down there. Now when it comes to the cross, this is different now. My cross, again, is aimed forward. However, where is my right foot facing? 2 o'clock, over there. That's not good. My hips are facing away from my opponent as well. So this time I need to turn my hips to face forward, and for this I need to allow my right foot to pivot. Now what often happens here, people, they allow their foot to pivot, but then they come up all the way on your toes. This way you will lose contact with the ground and all the power will dissipate somewhere behind you. So imagine you want to kill a spider, which I don't support, or you want to put off a cigarette, which I also don't support. Smoking, I mean. Putting off someone else's cigarette? Yeah, let's put off someone else's cigarette. Someone dropped a cigarette there. So you need your weight on that right foot to do that, right? So this is not going to do much. Keep your weight there and then bam. Use that power, transfer it from the floor through your hips into your punch. So as I land my cross, my hips are facing forward. My right foot is facing forward. Everything is facing in the right direction. Now in order to throw a left hook, which is going that way, right? That's the way my hips need to face. So I need to turn my hips, and for this I need to pivot on that left foot first. Here. Remember, when one heel is up, the other one is flat. So my right heel is going to be down on the floor this time. But as the left heel comes up, I turn my hips, and now my whole body, my hips, my foot, everything is facing in the direction my punch is going. Same goes for that right hook. This time I need an even bigger pivot because my right hook is going to face that way and my right foot is facing all over there. So big pivot, even more than for the cross. For the cross, it's enough for the foot to face forward, but for a hook, I need to turn it even more, all the way. So that's a big spider down there, or a big butt of cigarette. Bam, and then I come back. Now when it comes to uppercuts, where do they go? They go up. So I don't need to pivot as much as I would for a hook. I don't want to turn my hips horizontally, I want to aim them up. So I will lift up the heel, but mostly to lift the hips upwards. So for the left uppercut, all I need to do is lift up my heel, and it's going to lift up my hips, and then I can launch my left uppercut. For the right uppercut, I will pivot a little bit, because my uppercut goes straight in front of me up, but my foot is facing that way, so I will pivot to turn my hips forward, but then I'm going to lift them up. So from here, I will lift them, bam, upwards. And this is the basic principle of boxing. Why do we turn our hips? Because we want the power to go in the direction of our punch. And in order to turn our hips, we need to allow the foot to pivot. You get this right, everything else is going to be easy, I promise you.